Hi, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching for the very first time and didn't see our first video, Yolene Lofton Ministries is a healing, teaching, and a missions-driven organization designed to help catapult nurses into their destiny, inspire them to walk into their calling, their purpose, and to teach them who they really are so that they can use their gifts and share it with the world and outside of four walls. And so today I'm going to be sharing just a short video clip of how I went from nursing to ministry. From nursing to ministry. You know, a few people may be wondering out there, how you go from nursing to ministry? And so I'm going to be sharing that today. But before I get started, I just want to thank God for the opportunity for getting me out. Thank him for getting me out of my comfort zone. And I could not have done that if it wasn't for my spiritual leaders. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. Apostle R. Caleb Jean and Prophetess Danielle Jean from Divine Hope Restoration Ministries in Miami Gardens, Florida. And I just want to thank you, for, the years of just imparting in me, what God had for me all along, for helping me to pull out those gifts, and for encouraging me and praying me through, just such a tumultuous process that I went through in my life. Thank you. I thank God for both of you. I promise you. But so how did I go from nursing to ministry? Well, just to give you a little background, I grew up as a PK, a preacher's kid. 10 siblings, 6 girls, 4 boys. Mom and dad were pastors. It's not something that I don't think any of our 10 siblings thought about going into. It was not something that any of us, when I said any of us, thought about going into. It was something that none of us thought about going into. We grew up as preachers' kids. My mom and dad were pastors of a Pentecostal ministry. I don't regret having ever, been able growing, I don't regret having grown up in ministry, but it's not something that, was on our hearts to say, yeah. Some people are like, hey, I want to be a lawyer when I get older. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pastor or a minister. I was not one of those people, and I don't think either one of my siblings were neither. And so grew up in a Pentecostal faith-based ministry. By the way, I also want to give a shout out to the First Haitian Church of God in Miami with Pastor Eugene Germain, his siblings. I thank God for that ministry because that's where we got our foundation. Thank you. And they're still around after all these years. And I thank God for that ministry doing great things in North Miami, Florida. But grew up in ministry, had the foundation, prayerful parents, you name it. Was in church 3, 4, 5 nights a week, Sundays, you name it. We were a little apprehended about ministry, just witnessing what it was doing to our parents over the years. We didn't understand it back then as children, but we understand it now. How, ministry could be so taxing, meaning you really have to have the love of God to do it. We watched a lot of people in ministry abuse our parents, take advantage of them rather. My dad would just pray people through. My God, sometimes the bills at home would be suffering just to keep church doors open for ungrateful folk. At one point in ministry, I remember we were teenagers, me and my siblings, and we were telling our parents, please shut the church down, because these people taking advantage of you guys, man. These people are taking advantage of you guys. Shut the church down. Y'all don't deserve this. I mean, we were hurting as siblings to the point where we could feel our parents' pain and just shepherding God's people because they loved God. And sometimes that enemy would be talking to us to have them shut the church down because we couldn't watch, you know, how people would treat leaders in ministry. My God, sometimes even with tithing and offering. My parents' bills would be suffering at home. And I think the ministry at the time, they found a small storefront church that was about $800 a month. And sometimes in tithing and offering on one good Sunday, they would make like $61. I used to witness them just counting the offering, you know, after church or what have you. And they may have made $70 on a good day. And so even as a child, we would look at that and be like, that's not adding up. The church is $800 and you only bringing in like 70, 60, $61. Your bill is $800 a month. And so, and then they would, you know, we would just witness the imbalances, you know, at home. Our needs were always met. Thank God our basic needs were always met. Food, house, roof over our head, what have you. And we thank God for that. But, you know, just a lot of the abuse, it made us kind of apprehensive, or, you know, just really didn't want anything to do with ministry. And so grew up in church, witnessed all of these dynamics growing up with our parents. Went to college, became a nurse, graduated, trying to fast forward here, don't want to take up too much time. Graduated from nursing school, got married, and after I graduated and got married, I almost hate to say it, and I'm embarrassed to say it, that my profession became my God. In fact, the money that I was making because of the profession, it became my God. My last, you know, salary was a six-figure salary, you know, before I left the profession. But anyway, my last position in nursing was approximately in 2010. And it would happen on one, you know, good Thursday where, you know, I was part of a program, grant-funded program was about to end. We were basically, me and some other nurse consultants who were working with me at the time were advised to basically, if you need to find another position internally or outside, feel free to do so, because the grant that they had for a program was about to end. And so, to make a long story short, 2 weeks before I resigned, before I found another position, I entered dates that were incorrect in the computer. That's when, and many nurses might notice, that's when the EMRs just came out, the electronic medical records. They were testing it. This was the early phases of testing the electronic records. And so my dates, I entered notes in the computer, the dates were incorrect, but the actual substance or material in the documentation was correct. And so I went to my boss before I resigned and kindly asked them if I could edit those dates, have IT work with me to try to edit the dates so the date can reflect the correct information on those reports. And my boss, my managers declined. You know, they did not allow me to edit those dates. I didn't think anything of it. 2 weeks later, I resigned. And next thing you know, I get a complaint alleging that, hey, we're going to file a complaint against your license because, you know, you basically falsified dates intentionally. Like, really? I'm the one that gave you guys the information, whatever. And so I didn't think anything of it. Never thought I could get in trouble for it. But eventually it went to the Board of Nursing. And after fighting and trying to explain for my life, like, hey, this is not what it seems. You guys are not looking at this correctly. Here's how we did things. And so they basically made a decision to basically permanently revoke my license to practice nursing. Yeah, because dates were incorrect on reports. And I was trying to fight for it for like 6-7 years. And that's when God told me, you could either continue fighting for something that you really don't need, to be who I called you to be, or you could hold on to my word so I could catapult you in your destiny. And as much as, it was a little hurtful to try to let go of fighting for that license, I finally, came to the conclusion that God didn't want me to, possess a license that was going to keep me in a box and prevent me from being who I really needed to be. And so how did I become a nurse into full-time ministry? I was apprehended. And so did I want to go into ministry? Not at all. Was I apprehended to go into ministry? Yes. Sometimes, like I said before in my first video, sometimes God have to pull that rug from underneath you in order for you to walk into who he created you to be. I had a lot of hard knocks along the way from the time I lost my license. Oh my goodness. It was a snowball effect of different dynamics. Lost my license, couldn't get a job right away. Car got repossessed. My marriage started going through it. Husband decided to leave. Going through it. There was a bout of homelessness. I know it don't look like it. You would never tell. I went through a bout of homelessness. Thank God I had one sister. Shout out to Marnell. And a few other siblings who were really doing their best to support me throughout the process. It wasn't easy. My God, just trying to hold on to my faith and all of it. I had 2 young children at the time. They were 3 and 5. And just thank God, if it wasn't for the grace of God, carrying me and holding me afloat throughout that process, to see me and my kids through, I don't know where we would have been. I can see how people go into depression. I can see how people lose their minds. I can see how people, would throw in the towel and give up on God and be angry at God. But it took me, if it wasn't because of the precious love of God and his anointing, his spirit carrying me through the process, to get me through it, I don't know where I would have been mentally, and so I just thank God for allowing me to get through such a tumultuous process. It was not easy at all. But throughout those dark moments in my life, that's when I encountered Divine Hope Restoration Ministries. The timing was awesome. And, that's when I started to realize what God was asking me to do. And he was asking me to surrender. And he was just trying to bring me around full circle so that I can use my story and share the dynamics of, not only what I've been through, but the opportunity it created and the opportunity it allowed me to birth, in order to help influence a profession that have not even tapped into the depths of healing. They have not even tapped into the depths of healing. And so I just want to thank God for, allowing me to birth Yolene Lofton Ministries. This is why I went from nursing to ministry. And, I'm excited about what God is getting ready to do. I've been apprehended. And now it's time for me to help nurses understand who they really are, what they're called, to do, help them find purpose and help them walk into their calling to serve in a whole bunch of areas that have yet to be tapped into. And so I just want to thank you for listening to, this segment of nurses, my nursing story, if you will. And, I look forward to sharing more and sharing a lot of the initiatives that we have going on. You'll be hearing a lot about that, but feel free to tune in and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. I look forward to sharing a whole lot of the different things, ideas and things that God placed on my heart for nurses. And we're going to be taking the world by storm. You've heard of Benny Hinn, you've heard of different healing crusades, but you have not seen anything, like what God is about to do with nurses. And I'm so excited. And I advise nurses to get excited too, because we're getting ready to walk into the most profound times of our life. And so I thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the days to come.